Welcome back, guys, to the Fight Capital Show with your host, Matthew Sartor and Johnny De Lazaro. We got a couple topics to cover today, so let's get into it. Johnny, now, Arman Tsarukyan, it was revealed that he didn't get the title shot because of the headbutt versus Dan Hooker. Well, at least it played a part in it. Dana White said this on the Barstool podcast. Johnny, what do you think of this situation? Is Dana White in the right here, or is he being a bit childish about it? Let me know.
I think Dana White, he's just lying to us because there's no way that you take the number one contender out of the title picture because he headbutted his opponent, which is something that Dana White obviously wants to see, right? It creates tension between the fighters. He knew that Arman wasn't going to fight because he wanted to make Gaethje versus Pimblett so he can have Pimblett win and then he can make his heated matchup between Pimblett and Topuria.
Yeah,
So no.
it really just doesn't make sense. Well, why that's a good reason. Like, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't headbutt your opponent. Okay, you shouldn't. It's illegal to do it. But still, both fighters were fine with it after, and both fighters made up after, and it was a dominant performance from him. Whereas you have Paddy Pimblett coming off a win versus Chandler. Okay, it was dominant. Doesn't matter. Doesn't merit a title shot. Then you got Justin Gaethje coming off that win versus Rafael Fiziev, who was on 11 days' notice, I believe. How does that merit a title shot? I don't know. I completely disagree with Dana White here. I'm in agreement with you, really. Like,
I mean, we've seen him make some weird moves in the past. Obviously, we knew this was coming, right? The Gaethje versus Pimblett. We knew Tsarukyan isn't going to get that title shot right away. But now he's lying about it too, right? It's obvious that that's not the reason why he's not making that fight.
no, it does, and it sucks a bit. It sucks a bit because, like Habib, we talked about this last week. Habib was talking about how the UFC seems to be prioritizing that entertainment value over actually winning. Arman Tsarukyan is the most deserving contender, not getting a title shot. Sucks to see. But yeah, heading into like our next topic right here, we got John Jones and Alex Pereira. Dana White does not want the fight to happen at all. At all. I think he's really keen on if John Jones does return to the UFC, he wants him to only fight Tom Aspinall. And I don't know, like I don't know what to think about this because yes, I honestly think that John Jones does beat Alex Pereira, but it's still an interesting fight to make at the end of the day. Both guys similar ages. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this is definitely some weird behavior by Dana White. This is like the matchup that Dana would want us to see, right?
Yeah,
Well, I'm not going to say easy win for Jones because there's a path to victory for Alex. Obviously,
yeah, of course.
we saw him knock out Ankalaev. He can obviously beat Jones, but if Jones wins, he gets back into the win column. He has this hype. You can start calling him the GOAT again, and this would be the perfect fight to headline the White House card. Why wouldn't you want to make it?
Okay, like here's where I just disagree with you a bit. Headline, I don't think you could do it because you can't trust Jones. Dana doesn't have that trust. I don't blame him for not having trust in Jones with that whole Tom Aspinall situation. But still, making the fight for sure. I think it should be on the White House card for sure.
But
Uh,
listen, here's why it should headline the White House card. It's at the White House. You obviously want an American-born fighter to headline the card. Which other American fighter are you going to put? O'Malley? Sean
yeah,
Brady? John Jones is like the only guy who can possibly the full best American. I mean, he's probably the best American right now, even though he's not he hasn't been active. Like I don't
yeah.
see anyone who can put up a fight better than him.
You are right there. You are right there. You do have a point. But the thing about this whole situation that I think is a bit conflicting is the fact that earlier this week, I'm sure you've seen, Carlos Ulberg versus Yuri Prochazka is basically rumored to be confirmed, according to Stand Up MMA. Now, you know, if you're making that fight for a title because Ulberg, they already said that he was going to get a title shot, and Yuri Prochazka, he was urging for that title shot. So I'm confused. Are they really just playing with our heads and Alex Pereira is actually going to go up to heavyweight and, maybe fight for the title? Or or is he staying? Like it doesn't make sense right now. Like
Yeah, this
those
could mean a
rumors would
few
have to be
things.
false.
This could mean a few things. Obviously, it could mean that Alex is moving up to heavyweight and that they're fighting for the undisputed light heavyweight title. But it can also mean that maybe Alex is taking some time off, either he's injured or whatever other issues he has going on in his life. and that they're going to make them fight for an interim title.
I don't know. I just feel like why do an interim title? Alex Perez expressed his interest in heavyweight so much. Like it, I don't know. It doesn't make sense in my head right here. Now, I hope both fights happen. I hope both fights happen.
But do you really move Alex up to heavyweight, even though there's that clear fight that needs to happen right now between Aspinall and Gan, since it ended in a no contest?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I find the whole correlation between light heavyweight and heavyweight is like so just in a mess. It's really in a mess right now, and I just don't know the fights that they should make because Tom Aspinall, yes, he should be rematching Gan. John Jones returning. Who do you want him to fight in that heavyweight division? Like Dana, like seriously, who do you want him to fight? He has to fight Alex Pereira. It only makes sense.
Yeah, obviously that's another option, because if John Jones moves up to heavyweight, I mean, sorry, if Alex Pereira moves up to heavyweight, and there's still the Aspinall versus Gan fight that didn't happen, he's going to be waiting for a while unless he fights John Jones in a number one contender fight.
Exactly. You took my words for it. Now I hope this whole situation gets settled because right now I just need these fights to happen. I need these
Yeah,
fights.
definitely.
Moving on, Sean O'Malley just recently said that he's looking at an early retirement. As he said, this might be the last year of the Sugar Show. The guy's what, 31 years old, 30 years old? What is he saying here? Please tell me.
I mean, we've seen this happen already. Guys like Conor McGregor, Ilia Topuria, all those guys that have that sort of Dana White privilege, they tend to leave the UFC early for X reason. Maybe he made his money, he's tired of fighting, maybe he sees that he can't win anymore. In the bantamweight division, it was getting extremely competitive. You have Jan, who just dethroned Merab. Obviously O'Malley, he can't beat Merab. He had two chances at it. He probably can't beat Umar either. So
Yeah,
does he really have that much success left in him in the bantamweight division?
I think he does. I think this is just like poor thinking in a way, poor mindset. I think his mindset has taken a hit, and I hope that this a big win over Song Yadong can change that, of course, because there's several contenders that he could fight within the division. There was an interesting fight that everyone wanted to make previously versus Corey Sandhagen, and I would love to see that fight maybe around this year because I don't think he should fight Petr Yan for the title shot, as we said last show. It just shouldn't happen. But this should definitely not be the last Sugar Show. He's in one of the most talented divisions, and he's one of the most talented fighters there. And
But
for his grappling struggles, he faced Merab. So what? The guy still showed improvement in that second fight. He got finished, but he showed improvement in his takedown defense. I think this was just a dumb statement from him, and he's gonna take that back for sure.
then again, if he does get that title shot from Jan, does he win that fight? I mean, we've seen him beat Jan, arguably.
Questionably, yeah.
Questionably, he might have lost that fight, but they gave him the victory, right? So
Yeah.
maybe he has that. They have this weird mindset where O'Malley goes out there and he does beat Jan. Who does he fight next? Do they give him Merab again? Do they give him Umar? Because if he fights Merab, he's definitely gonna lose, right? We've seen it twice.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
At this point,
it gets into an awkward situation for the bantamweight division.
no, for sure, for sure. No, you're right. And that you had mentioned Ilia Topuria before. Have you seen the news this week? I mean, today, early this morning, he wants to make a return, summer or spring, as he just won his, I believe, like the first trial of the court case with between him and Georgina. So that's pretty good news. That's pretty good news. And he's likely gonna fight Paddy versus Gaethje, obviously, even though it should be Tsarukyan.
Yeah, definitely. It's great news. I mean, he's pound for pound number two. He doesn't fight that often to start with. Already, yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't fight that often. Now he has these legal issues that he has to battle. It's gonna take some time off. But if he can make a return in the summer, that would be great. We get to see him versus the interim title holder, and then hopefully Tsarukyan after that, right?
Yeah, of course, because he shouldn't be fighting at welterweight yet. I'm a big fan of that fight between him and Makhachev, but him moving to welterweight without getting at least two defenses at this weight class, it's a bit wrong, at this point, especially when you're going for triple champ status.
And he's definitely gonna be like a super small welterweight, right?
Oh my God.
Like
And
Islam Makhachev already is a lightweight who went up to welterweight. Now Topuria is going up two divisions. Like that's gonna be hard on him. Like he's gonna be very small in that division.
GSP, when he fought versus Bisping, imagine he just jumped one weight class. Remember, it was 15 pounds. He talked about how horrible that jump was for his body as he felt slower, he felt sluggish, he had to go to the doctor a lot. He was having a lot of issues. And Ilia Topuria, don't get me wrong, the guy's a beast, but he's no superhuman. You know, his health will take a toll if he does make that jump in weight way too like fast, of course.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah. All right. Next topic, we got a really interesting one, kind of like a throwback to when we were younger, of course. Uh, the beef is just getting worse, I guess, over time. Uh, Daniel Cormier and John Jones, they seem to not like each other at all during their time at ALF. Now, Daniel Cormier was, according to John Jones, very disrespectful during the show and called him a word. I don't know if I could say that, but yeah, no, they do not like each other at all. And yeah, what do you think of that?
I mean, I thought this beef was squashed a while ago. You know, we saw DC commentating on John Jones's fight versus Stipe, right? I thought they put their differences aside. Maybe
Yeah,
it's just a publicity stunt. Maybe they really do hate each other again.
I don't know.
But
It feels nostalgic to me. It feels
yeah,
nostalgic.
no, definitely. It's definitely going to be something that brings views to this fighting organization.
Yeah, and Daniel Cormier also brought up that he's in agreement to box uh, John Jones on the show or and wrestle. I know wrestling's for sure happening, but I don't know where boxing came out of. It just did, of course, of his mouth. Now, who do you got in a wrestling match? Because personally, I understand John Jones is in the prime of his career, but Daniel Cormier, Olympic wrestling, like Olympic style wrestling, I think he beats John Jones. That's just more of his style, of course. You know, he has very good pins. I think he beats John Jones. Not 10-0, of course. It's Daniel Cormier did claim, but I do think he beats him in the wrestling department.
Well, you have Daniel Cormier who hasn't fought in a number of years. You have John Jones who hasn't fought for 1 or 2 years. You know, he's probably still training, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully.
um, I hope.
But I do have to side with Daniel Cormier here. You know, his amazing wrestling background. You just can't compare much to that. You know,
Yeah,
John Jones does have great wrestling. He showed it in the UFC, but that's MMA wrestling, and it's different from regular wrestling, right?
yeah, of course. You have the threat of the striking the whole time. You know that you're worrying about if you're doing pure wrestling. I think Daniel Cormier, he's still training. He's still training in his gym. He's still showing moves actively all the time with his with our trainees and training partners. So I think Daniel Cormier does take that, and I just want to watch it really. Now, there's a new bit of fight news that came out yesterday in the welterweight division. We got Morales, who said that he is likely targeting a return in July or June and in talks for a fight versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now, who do you think is going to win that fight?
That's a tricky fight. I think it's a great fight. You know, we just saw Michael Morales knock out Sean Brady in the first round, completely unexpected. You know, I had Sean Brady winning that fight because of his grappling, right? He just looked so much more experienced in the UFC. But then you have Jack Della Maddalena, you know, he just got dethroned by Islam Makhachev. Can't complain because it's Islam Makhachev,
Yeah,
right?
of
Pound
course.
for pound number one of the greatest of all time. But Jack Della Maddalena did look amazing in his fight versus Bilal Muhammad when he did win the belt. You know, this is a pretty tricky fight to call. I feel like I would have to give the edge to JDM since he has more experience and longer fights. He's had a few five rounders. Michael Morales is newer to the division, newer to the UFC,
Yeah.
but it can definitely go either way.
No, I'm in agreement with you, based off of JDM's experience in the UFC and just how skilled the guy is with his boxing, of course. And he's not going to really have the threat of the takedown in this fight. Sure, Morales does have a bit of ground game, but it's pretty similar to JDM's, like experience in grappling, of course. So I do think it's a good fight. I think it's probably going to stay on the feet, and both guys are going to land good shots. There's no chance that JDM doesn't get rocked in this fight because Morales is just he's very powerful. But I do think that JDM has the chin to keep going and keep going throughout the fight and probably outpace him in the later rounds. I do think that Morales would take the first two though, just based off of his style and how, you know, just outrageously he comes out right away in the first two rounds. He comes out strong and he just goes for that KO. I would depend on JDM's chin here.
Yeah, hopefully, because Morales can definitely pack a punch, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that KO he got last versus Sean Brady. I mean, he made Sean Brady look like nothing. And Sean Brady is one of the most talented in the division. Like, that was seriously impressive. All right. Now, other news in the welterweight division, we got two guys that are scheduled to return. Like they both teased the return. Now, Carlos Prates, it looks like he's back in training camp. There was footage circulating that he was hitting the bag, etc., in fight camp, and there's a few fights that you can make in the division. Well, not so much because he could only fight up from here. He's on a 2-fight win streak, and then when we're looking at the guys ahead of him that don't have a fight booked, now Michael Morales, he's gonna fight JDM likely. Then you got Ian Machado Gary and Shavkat Rakhmonov. And then you got Islam Makhachev, who's the champ. Now, I don't think Carlos Prates is going to fight the champ because that just doesn't make sense. Bilal Muhammad is also booked versus Joaquin Buckley. Well, they both agreed to it. So I'm not sure who he can fight here. I would say Shavkat Rakhmonov and you do the Ian Gary versus Islam Makhachev for the Irish versus Russia. But who would you rather see him fight?
For Carlos Prates, I think he should fight. I think the only fight here capable to make is versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, obviously, if he's back in shape, ready to fight again. Hopefully they make Ian Gary versus Islam Makhachev because that looks like the fight that's supposed to happen, right? It would be a great fight.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, definitely, like all the other contenders, I feel like there's not really a case for them to fight Carlos Prates. I think it's only Shavkat.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And Shavkat, he can't fight for the title right now. When you're taking a year off, no matter what, even if you beat Ian Gary, it was still like a 3-2 win. At the end of the day, it was still a 3-2 win, and it was a year ago. Ian Gary's
Yeah,
done more in that year span. So
he
there's, of
definitely took a bit too much time off. Obviously, it's not his fault, right? He was injured,
course,
but you got to get back in the back of the line, you know.
yeah, you
Same
can't
thing happened to Tsarukyan, right?
exactly. And he ended up fighting after complaining for a bit because he did complain. But there's another fighter that is returned. Now, his stock has taken a big hit recently, with a couple of losses. He's old now, but there's another fighter that's also old on this. Now, you got Gilbert Burns that wants to return. Now, I have a fight suggestion here. I think that Gilbert Burns should return versus Colby Covington. Colby Covington's on a losing streak. Gilbert Burns is on a losing streak. Dana White even said recently that he doesn't think Colby Covington should be in the top 15 because he has, I believe, one fight in 765 days, and he lost that fight. Do you think that fight should happen? I think it should.
It's a pretty good fight. I mean, it's definitely winnable for both sides. You have the grappling and the striking of Gilbert Burns, and you have the pure wrestling of Colby Covington.
Yeah.
I think Burns does win this fight. We haven't seen much from Colby Covington recently. He had some moments versus Buckley, but other than that,
Yeah,
I think it's a winnable fight for the return of Burns, even though he's been on a pretty big losing streak.
yeah, but at the same time, he's been fighting quality. Neither of them have not been fighting quality, but you can't blame Burns for that losing streak. He did fight Michael Morales last, and that's as we saw versus Sean Brady. He's definitely legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a next little bit of news now. Justin Gaethje, staph infection or
Is
brisket?
it enough to pull
Is
out
it
of a fight?
Is it staph infection, brisket, and an ingrown hair? I don't know. What is it?
There's
I
lies,
think I
man.
think it's staph.
Yeah, definitely. Is it enough to pull out of a fight though?
No fighter really pulls out unless they have a severe infection and they go to the hospital, etc.
I think it would be better, for us if he does pull out. Like obviously you don't want fighters getting injured or getting sick, right?
Yeah, but you
But
get
if he
Arman
does pull out,
Tsarukyan
then
in
you get
there.
to see Tsarukyan, the rumored backup fighter for this fight. Then
Oh
you get to see Tsarukyan versus Pimblett. That's a real interim fight, right?
yeah, that's the real fight that should actually be happening. Well, you could argue obviously Max Holloway should be in there, of course, but he's fighting Charles Oliveira. But yeah, you know, it would be good if he did pull out. At the same time, you still want to see Justin Gaethje fight. And a couple minutes before the podcast started, actually, there was a little bit of news that came out about Justin Gaethje. He's likely to retire if he does lose to Paddy Pimblett. I found that was obvious. Uh, but do you think that should be his last fight if he does lose?
It could be, maybe we see him in another fun matchup versus someone like Benoit Saint Denis, some other dangerous fighter in the lightweight division. Justin Gaethje is definitely one of the funnest fighters to watch on the entire UFC roster, arguably the funnest fighter to watch.
Oh, no doubt. I
He
mean,
he always has an entertaining fight, and to retire versus Pimblett, obviously no one wants to see that happen. You want to keep watching Justin Gaethje's fights. When you see Justin Gaethje on the card, you obviously want to tune in. And if they are able to keep him for another fight, and we see him versus Benoit Saint Denis, that would be an absolute banger.
oh no, it definitely would, man. It definitely would. He's he he has the most performance bonuses in UFC history, right? About to hit $1 million now. Like that's serious. That's serious. That's when you know you're the most entertaining guy. No matter, despite winning or losing, most entertaining guy, no doubt. Now, we do have some really good news here. It looks like we're gonna get a summer return from Alexandre Pantoja as recovery looks to be going extremely well. He was seen sparring and weightlifting. That arm, it looks completely fine. Apparently, he didn't need surgery at all for it.
That's great to hear. We definitely want to see that fight versus Joshua Van. We want to see that again. Definitely not a way to lose your title, not a way to earn one either. Do you think they make him versus Tatsuro Taira in the meantime?
I mean, yeah, those both those guys, like they didn't really take a hit in their last fight, neither of them.
Yeah,
So I
both of
do
them ended quickly.
no, yeah, exactly. I think they should make their next fight for probably March. Normally March we get two pay-per-view events. No, I'm not sure if there is, but we should. I think it would probably be like the later March card. And yeah, I think Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira should headline that. And then we see the winner of that fight, Pantoja.
Yeah, it would be great. I do think Pantoja beats either of these guys, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joshua Van, so I can't say that. And like I rate Pantoja. I do think he has done a lot in the division, but it's Joshua Van's time. It's Joshua
He's the
Van's time.
second best flyweight of all time. You can't keep him out of the title picture. It's only a matter of time
Oh
until
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
comes
No,
back and
no,
reclaims his belt.
I no, man, no. Like that's not happening, man. It's not happening. I like Pantoja, man. It's not happening. Joshua Van,
No.
yo, he technically broke his arm, bro. It was an armbar that you've never seen before. That's all it is. Dan Hooker and Paddy Pimblett have a bit of beef going on Twitter. I don't know if you saw earlier what happened. Dan Hooker mentioned Paddy Pimblett's dead friend that he did reference in one of his post-fight speeches, and then Paddy Pimblett replied and just calling him a horrible human being. Now, what do you think about this beef? Is there really a side to pick here? What do you think?
There's definitely some wild things that were said for both sides. I mean, Paddy Pimblett insulting Dan Hooker's mom, Dan Hooker insulting Paddy Pimblett's late friend. There's not really a side to pick here. These are just crazy things to say, even
Yeah,
in the
no, no.
fighting business. If you hate the guy, like let's be realistic. If Paddy Pimblett wins his next fight, you're probably never gonna see him versus Hooker, or it's probably not even gonna be a potential matchup, right? Hooker, I don't think he beats many of the guys in the top five right now. But yeah,
Yeah, I know
a bit of a
it's
pointless beef.
it honestly is a pointless beef as I don't see the fight happening one day because Dan Hooker, whether you like it or not, he won his what two or one fight before the Tsarukyan fight, but he's still in the decline. He's not the best fighter to be talking shit to a guy that's coming up in the division, of course. Now, who do I got in the fight between the two? If they do ever fight, I think Paddy Pimblett just completely does exactly what Tsarukyan did to him. I think you agree with that too.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Tsarukyan submit him. Paddy Pimblett has great jiu-jitsu. He's definitely gonna submit Hooker as well.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for watching the Fight Capital Show with your hosts, Matthew and Johnny De Lazaro. It's been a good one. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. I'll see you guys in the next one.